Episode 4, Mogul Mondays, coming live to you. Anthony Romeo, DSL, we are Mogul Lifestyle Club, and we have the #1 mixologist in the world, Bruce Blue Rivera. Please introduce yourself for the people that don't know you.
Yeah, man. My name is Bruce Blue Rivera. I go by the Urban Mixologist. I'm also brand ambassador for Casa Nova Tequila. So we're going to be here talking about all types of stuff and drinking some tequila. Y'all.
I don't know about Bruce, but we just gonna be drinking in this episode.
This is gonna be a little bit like what's that shit with Nori?
Yeah, it's like drink champs.
Yeah,
right?
drink champs.
We can do that.
And it's only 12 o'clock.
And let's see who pass out first.
First things first, let them see what you got out, man.
That's my signature. I kind of like, it's my thing. I'm big on aprons. I got a whole bunch branded. I've been blessed to meet some cool designers who've blessed me with some cool aprons and stuff.
We gotta put a mogul on that.
Yeah. I got some with logos. I'll show you guys. I have some. You can put one on.
First things first, Bruce Blue. Where did the name come from?
Yeah. Well, Blue. I'm from the South Bronx, and I grew up in a real Latino neighborhood, and a lot of people don't realize that my name Bruce isn't a name that's phonetically possible to pronounce in Spanish. So, a lot of people, they like, oh yeah, but if you don't speak English and you try to say Bruce, it comes out something like Bru. And my best friend as a kid, his mother was taking English as a second language, and she was learning colors and numbers, and she said, oh, ese es el nombre de azul, azulito, blue. And it stuck. Everybody thought it was funny, but it stuck. And then my first company was called Blue Entertainment when I was like 18, and it just...
Oh, so you started real early.
Yeah, man. I started early. I think, the best drive for some people is, when you're hungry, you try to find a way to eat.
Exactly.
And, I was a club promoter really early. I was handing out flyers for Peter Gation and the Tunnel and Limelight back then at 16. I was handing out flyers in the street because they would pay you cash the same day. So I did that, and then I started knowing people, and people were like, yo, where's the party? And so if I started taking their names down, at that time we didn't have, like internet flyers and shit like that. So we used to have to put our phone number, and they'd have to call you, and they'd have to bring a flyer to the club to get a discount. But then they would count how many flyers you got, and that's how you get paid. And I was like, wait,
that's the real hustle.
that's another hustle on top of that. So if I'm already out here handing for somebody else, let me put my number and my name on them. And that's how I got into promotions, man.
Talk about, like, for me, I call that resourcefulness, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So just talk about how your environment and your upbringing, being Latino, being from the South Bronx, how the resourcefulness of not having nothing gave you the hustle that I'm pretty sure you still use to this day.
Yeah, I think when you're from the South Bronx or any area that really is overlooked, or they kind of don't have the opportunities that a lot of other areas do, you resourcefulness. I think we talked about that. Being resourceful and finding a way, saying, I have this, now how can I flip that into something else? Or how can this open another door for me? And I think that's really, watching other people, people sewing clothes and other people kind of like, selling swipes on the bus pass.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in
No, the bus pass,
I
like I look at the dudes now, but like before, I used to go to school, you sell your bus pass.
Yeah.
But like say you lost it, you get another one, but somebody's right there, I think it was just the fact of you had to find a way, regardless of what you did, and you didn't like what you had, or you didn't like a certain thing, well, you gotta work for it. You didn't like them sneakers, you didn't like that thing, you had to find a way to get it, and a lot of people sometimes, they figured it out, or they just stole. Sorry to say, but.
Did the environment that you grew up in pretty much force you to become an entrepreneur? Do you think that's a good way to put it?
I think it definitely motivated me. I don't think it forced me, because unfortunately, too many of people that look like me, that are my age, went that other route. Sometimes that easy money, that easy or that quick, snatch and grab, or I'm gonna go rob somebody because that's a quick resolve, are in jail or dead. So I don't think it forced you. I think it puts you on a level where you need to make a decision, and you need to go, what am I gonna do?
2 questions for you. First of all, what is your ethnicity? What are you?
Oh man, all right, cool. My mom's Puerto Rican.
Nice.
My dad is Hawaiian, but from Puerto Rico. So
Hawaiian, but from Puerto Rico.
yeah.
Okay.
My family migrated to Puerto Rico. My Hawaiian family early on to be farmers, like back in the day, And so I am Puerto Rican, but my nationality and my race are different. A lot of people get confused when I tell them I'm Puerto Rican, but they're like, but your dad's Hawaiian. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm related to The Rock. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You always use that excuse.
Kind of. I wouldn't say no to that.
And the second question would be, so I always ask the entrepreneurs this because obviously I'm pretty sure you didn't know you were going to be in this position. So what was the thing that, like, growing up you wanted to be, or what your parents like tried to force you to be, or what was that drive, like in high school, middle school? You was like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a fireman.
You know, it's so funny. All through school, you know, I was in the South Bronx, so my family, my mom's tried to really give me the best opportunity to send me to Catholic school most of my life. And believe it or not, I think when I was real young, I wanted to be a priest.
So you went to Hayes?
Which is funny. I didn't go to Hayes, but no,
Hayes?
I'm gonna tell you, like, a lot of people don't know this, man. I remember telling my mother that I wanted to be a priest, and you know, of course, then you find out like you can't get married, and then girls and hormones happen. But before that, when I was young, but I didn't realize, and I started thinking about like, why did I want to be that? And I think it wasn't being a priest; it was being a leader, or being the person that was in charge. Or, you know, I always thought that like, yo, people listen when this guy talks, or you know, his message. And I think that's what I was interested in. And so as my life developed and I kind of looked at, I enjoy teaching, I enjoy coaching. You know, I think that's what it is partaking some knowledge and kind of giving it on. So I don't think it was, I wanted to be a priest. I think I just wanted to be in a position that I could give back and also be respected. And I think that's what it was.
I think you could have been like Creflo Dollar.
I-
You would have been like the Jets, you know, you would have been that flying faster. You
So,
know?
you know, I'm gonna tell you, all honesty, another secret. I'm gonna drop bombs here.
Okay.
My pops is a reverend in the Bronx. So,
Yeah.
yeah, my pops is a reverend.
You never mentioned that. And
I've never.
what's going on?
My dad is a reverend. My dad's actually pretty well known. He's a politician and very big on community development. Has been in the Bronx his whole life. But yeah, he's a reverend. He's a reverend.
So maybe just from that perspective, you know, to give back to the community.
Oh yeah.
And I know that's big on your,
Yeah,
on your
100%.
behalf. Like Blue, trust me, he will give back to anybody
100%.
in any community. It doesn't even have to be his own.
Of course.
That's one of the most things I respect about you.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Always giving back, putting people in different opportunities to be successful.
Well, I think if you're given something, it's only beneficial for you to give back. Whether it just be advice, whether it just be a cell phone ringing. Nah,
Don't worry, it's cool.
Inspired.
that's it. No, I think it's beneficial. You know, I think a lot of people, too many people get put on and leave and forget where they came from and forget those people. And you know, I've met certain people at different points in my life that inspired me. You know, good or bad. You know, whether you know they had a business or whether they were hustlers or whatever it was. That inspired me. So if I could inspire somebody in my life, then I think it's better than any money I've ever made.
I want to piggyback on what you were
Yeah.
saying. So, what you're saying, giving back to the community, and a lot of people leaving and not coming back. Talk about the resourcefulness of what gems that we have in this community, and what you do with small businesses, and how you're making it with that. So, just talk about how your resourcefulness from young, and you using the gems of what we have in this community, and actually profiting off of it. What a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically to the South Bronx in New York, I think we've seen our neighborhoods that were undesirable or that people didn't want to go there. Now, people are trying to buy everything up, and all those little mommy and poppy stores can't survive anymore. So now it's difficult for them. So I think for me, that's one thing I've really always tried to highlight was, you know, I've been in the Bronx since the 80s. I've been in New York my entire life pretty much. And I see the transition, and you know, everybody paints us that we need to be helped or we need to be saved. You know, we don't need help. We don't need to be saved. We've been doing it on our own for a while. We got to this point without you. And not to say that building and community development isn't necessary. I believe it. But when you are developing a community over the responsibility and the needs of that community, and you stepping on them, that's a problem. And that's, you know, we get into talk
Yeah,
about
because they're
gentrification.
making the Bronx not for the Bronx.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
it's for the new low-income Manhattan, if there's such something that exists.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
we've seen it happen in Brooklyn. We've seen it happen in a lot of other areas. And I think for the Bronx, for me, it's kind of like it's my battlegrounds. You know, I hear it. I hear it in my dad's voice when he, you know, his high school doesn't exist anymore because they tore it down and put up a Starbucks. You know, like you went to school there and you're still in the same neighborhood, and the neighborhood doesn't look like your neighborhood anymore. And like I said, growth is good, but are you growing as a community, or are you just putting something on top of the community that's already there? And I think, there's a lot of negotiations and talks about that, and a lot of mixed feelings about that. But small businesses, I think, are the key, and I think that's really what it is, because I think when people see people that look like them succeeding, it inspires them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's gives you the Me Too attitude.
100%.
Where, just to piggyback from what you said before that, in terms of just leadership qualities and things, Kobe Bryant just passed away yesterday, and rest in peace. Like, he was my mentor growing up,
100%.
for a lot of people it was, and it wasn't even basketball. It was just the mindset we come from the Bronx, where you can say it was dirty, you can say whatever you want, but it was a grind every day.
100%.
And for us entrepreneurs, you need a certain type of mindset to be able to survive in places like the Bronx. It wasn't easy, but if you had that mindset of like, I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna be the most skillful person in whatever it is that I'm doing, like, you're doing this, like, I can never even imagine now, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy the things that we are able to do because of the mindset that we have.
You know what? I think that's what it is, that hunger and what you do with it. And I think, especially pertaining to Kobe, I think seeing somebody who, was from Philly and he came from that type of neighborhood, and he had a good background, but he took a ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't realize that, sports like soccer and basketball are good in our community because it's cheap. One ball, 14 people can play.
Exactly.
No equipment, no nothing. But for you to hone your skills and take that one ball and then take it to another level to make yourself a multimillionaire, to make yourself an icon, to make yourself a visible voice for community is amazing. And I think it takes work ethic. And I think a lot of our community, we see people succeed, but we don't see that the hard work. We don't see them, we don't see him in the gym 10 hours a day. He was known for that. And he was known for being, obsessive about being better every day. And I think if anything we take, even outside of sports or even outside of, this tragedy, is that he wanted it bad enough to work hard enough. Because a lot of people want it, but they're not willing to work for it.
So what you were saying, I wanted to say about that for Kobe. One of the things that I've taken from Kobe, as he said, it wasn't from basketball, it was just being obsessive about the stuff that I do. I know myself as a young entrepreneur, when I put my blinders on, I become obsessive. So I want to know, what is your blinder? What are you obsessed about? What is the work ethic that you can say from like a Kobe Bryant that you use towards your brand and all the multitude of brands that we haven't even mentioned, that nobody knows about, that keeps you going? What is that drive that keeps Blue going?
You know what? I think I was very fortunate to meet somebody early on in my life. I had a mentor, and I didn't even know what mentors were. At the time, I worked for a man named Sal Abatello for Fever Records, and
you worked for Sal?
I worked for Sal. I worked for
Freestyle.
Sal. Freestyle. Yeah, I worked for him for almost 12 years, man. And I learned a lot, not from, because he's a Bronx guy too. He's an older Italian guy, but his work ethic. And I saw that if you put in, I always had this obsessive thing that I would stay up later than anybody and wake up before you did. So by the time you awake, I'm already ahead of you. Every day. Like, people, I'm tired, I'm going to bed.
No, I don't believe in tiredness.
I would say, okay, I'm going to work hard now so I can rest later. And I feel like that's something I really instilled, and I saw in him, he'd be up 2 in the morning, 3 o'clock, writing out contracts, it's 2 o'clock here, but it's only 11 o'clock on West Coast, so we're going to do West Coast business, and it just became one of those things that, I think it became obsessive to me. I felt like if I was sleeping in, I felt like I was losing. Now I know as I got older, you have to rest. Not saying don't sleep. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you want something hard enough, losing a couple hours on a project or on something that's yours or a brand or a business, it's worth it in the long run. Your health is important. I do want to stress that though. As I've gotten older, them long nights, a little bit less, but I've also felt like I put in that work already. I put in that foundation. So it allows me some room to sleep.
For me, in terms of time now, like, I'll say maybe 4 or 5 years, I've been able to hold myself accountable.
Yep.
Before, it was, you do certain things and time is running and you don't pay attention. You still feel like you're doing things, but now I've been holding myself accountable in terms of the time frame that I'm doing something. Like, if I'm going to do this for an hour, it's an hour for this. Then the next hour, there's something else to do. Then the next hour. So literally, I could go 20 hours in a day, and people be like, "Hey, you don't get tired?" I'm like, "I'm busy. I'm doing stuff. I'm moving."
And if you need some sleep or you can't, just drink some Casanova.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
get you motivated.
I'm not gonna lie, I've become the king of naps. Like I will get me a nap now. No, but I mean, you have to, you have to take care of yourself. You got to eat better, and I think a lot of those.
Hold on, your wife is from Spain, right?
No, my son's mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not married.
It's a big difference.
Okay, sorry.
No,
I say that because you
His
gotta have.
son's mother.
What do they call it? A siesta, right? Or
Yeah, they're big on siestas.
They're more productive, man.
They are. Yeah, you know what? It's quality of life, man. And I think, a lot of people, we grind hard and we tell these kids, and a lot of these kids see these online motivators and stuff like that, but they only tell half the story. Especially coming from, a place where options aren't, eating well or working out, or, like a lot of those things are, they're like work yourself to death. Well, I mean, that's one part. You got to look on the other side and really invest in yourself, because without you, these things aren't possible. And I think as I've matured, it takes discipline and understanding that, maybe, I was a smoker when I was a kid, and then I realized I haven't smoked in over 10 and a half years. But I decided to stop because that's going to impede me from doing something else, maybe for somebody else.
It's just personal development.
100%.
Personal development kicks in for certain people at certain stages.
100%.
For me, I think it was at 25.
It happens.
Some people are at 17, 18.
I know people at 40 that
at
are
40,
just
some
30
person
that are still, learning stuff. But that's, I think, if you consider yourself an entrepreneur, if you consider yourself a business person, everything that you do, you're building. You're constantly building. So if it's not building on your brand, if it's not building on learning, which I always say, keep learning everything. Learn about yourself. I think too many people learn everything else and got all these papers and degrees, but they don't know what they want in life, and they don't understand what makes them tick, or why their relationships aren't working, or why can't I negotiate well, or why don't I have best friends? You got to look at that. Or why am I always in toxic friendships or toxic relationships? And I think that's a whole other part of it. But
like the insight for me and also for Anthony for Mogul Mondays is to get that story out to the masses, where we see all the glamorous things on social media. You travel. Your son has been featured in many magazines. He's like a travel kid.
He is,
and
man.
you put in the work to be able to have that
100%.
in place. And just to say, what I want is for people to understand the backstory to other individuals. It's not all the glamorous things that you see
100%.
every day. It's all those grind years that nobody saw. Like Blue wouldn't be Blue without the Bronx backstory.
100%. 100%.
If you would have came from somewhere else, like Silver Spoon, all these
Might
success
have never
stories
happened.
would never happen. So can you
believe
talk
that.
about the businesses that you have right now, currently?
Yeah, I've been really blessed and fortunate to taking risks. But I'll tell you, just like you said, everybody lives these Instagram lifestyles where everything's, popping bottles and everything's great. But I've taken some L's, man. I've lost everything more than once. Down to the dollar. Like broke. I've invested in businesses that failed. I originally opened a club in Middletown, New York called Blues Club and Sports Bar, and learning. I didn't know much about partnerships and contracts, and I basically got robbed. I got robbed by my partner.
That means make sure you read the fine print.
Always get
Always read the
contracts.
fine print.
No. And honestly, that is a real big thing because you think you might know somebody, things change. I just really, I was so eager to invest. I think my need to want to be greater, didn't allow me to see the red flags or allow me to, spend that extra money on a lawyer. I got it, I trust him. Yeah, well, money don't trust nobody. And I'll tell you, and if your partner has a problem that you want to do everything by the book, then that's probably a red flag.
Yeah.
Because if you're protecting yourself and your investment, that's probably one thing I learned from that. So, a failed business, had to start all over from the bottom again. And I think life has a funny way of putting you where you want to be. I've had some bad experiences with investments that I got out, but it saved my ass. You know, I was mad at that time, like, damn, I made a bad decision, but then the business folded and they lost everything.
Okay.
So I kind of was, I was saved from that.
You saw the writing on the wall,
Exactly,
pretty much.
exactly.
But let's talk about that. It came from that first failure, right?
Yeah,
you see,
100%.
so yeah, a lot of people get scared of the failure, but you need this failure to learn
100%.
from it. And it's messed up because I'm a person that works out, right?
Yeah.
And every time you go to the gym, what do? You fail.
Of course.
And then that's how you get better. But when people do it in business, like, oh, I don't want to fail. But that's just how life is. And as you said, that big failure, moving on,
Said
you're like,
everything.
it helped you.
It changed my perception, and I think we have a misconception being from the hood or something like that. Like corporate is just as grimy. Corporate is just as the only thing is that the thief ain't wearing a ski mask. That's the thing. He's wearing a suit and a pen. So a lot of times as entrepreneurs, especially from our community, we think, oh, he clean cut or he's saying the right things to me. Yeah, well, no, he got his hand in your pocket just like everybody else. So I learned that. So my failures really may have been expensive, and I think the cost of it, I think in my life I learned, and I talk about my loss, but that was the cost. The same way you got to pay to go to college, that was my cost. I learned from that, and I won't make that same mistake again. Businesses, started a couple businesses in the Bronx. I have a coffee shop called the Coffee Break Company. We did a pop-up with the Bronx Night Market, the original Bronx Night Market called Port Q. We were on the front of Bronx Times for that. Really working on helping marketing and advertising. One of my companies is called Blue York City. What we do is we facilitate a lot of marketing and letting companies understand how to reach certain demographics of people, which has been growing. Actually, Casa Noble is one of our biggest clients.
Okay.
Through Blue York City.
So double stream of income right there.
We want you to talk about that because you put all your eggs in one basket, which was the business in Middletown, and you learn like, I'm not doing that again. So how did that help you with all the business you're doing now?
Well, I think now when you learn, if you're going to accumulate any type of wealth, you have to diversify your streams of income, and a lot of people get scared by that. What does that mean? Whether you're working one day, that's one type of income. If you invested into something, whether it be stocks, whether it be business, that's a secondary form of income. If you have a passive income, let's say an investment or real estate or whatever, there's so many types, and everybody gets intimidated. It doesn't have to be that big. I have a small online business called Shop Blue 123, where I just started. I was a sneakerhead, and growing up poor, I wear a size 13. Every time, by the time
13 brothers, let's go.
By the time I got enough money to buy the sneaker, they were sold out, and I hated it. So what I started doing was I would buy that size 9 and resell it to somebody to make my money. So I would flip shoes so I could buy my shoes. So what ended up happening online, I just kept doing that, and now, we're doing very well. And it's just something. I started selling just extra stuff I had around the house, stuff that I wasn't using. Now I get inventory. Now I look for certain sneakers and sports memorabilia. So that started another company. I have a company called Pro Fans Elite. We deal in customer collectibles, autographed collectibles, and I've been lucky. I've met a lot of athletes, celebrities that I grew up. Lawrence Taylor is a good friend of mine, and if you would have told me 35 years ago, I'd be like, yo, you can be hanging out with Lawrence Taylor. I'd be like, nah, that's crazy.
Exactly. That's
crazy.
Taylor, though.
But other players, some of the Yankees, and it's just funny that, it's funny because these businesses exist. It's not the ball. And it was an old guy who told me, it's not the ball that you pay for. The ball costs $2. It's the value. It's the value. So because somebody put their name on it and it means something to you, that's what the value is. And I was so intrigued by that you could take a football or you could take a helmet and take it to one person and have them sign it, and now it's worth $500. To me that was amazing to really just see the value of things, because it's not something that you might pay $500 for, but you will.
Pretty much like Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, it's a little different than Bitcoin.
In a sense, because we put the value on it. Because to me, maybe Lawrence Taylor, it's not worth $500 in my head.
You're right.
And then I'll say somebody else will pay $2,000.
But that's the market, and
It's
I
the
think
market,
that's
exactly.
what made me start that, because me as a collector myself, because that's where it started. I just started collecting stuff. You know, I think I became a sneakerhead because I didn't have sneakers when I was a kid. You know, I had that one pair of sneakers, and you had to wear it with the black outfit, the blue outfit, the green outfit.
Switch the
you know,
laces.
so exactly. Switch the laces. You figured it out, but that's what drove me to start buying sneakers, because I remember. It's a crazy story. My mom and dad split when I was young, and you know how it is when if you come from a separate home. Like my dad went to go take me sneaker shopping on Fordham Road, right? We went to VIM. VIM on Fordham Road.
Is
Like,
it still there?
I don't
Nah.
know.
I don't think so.
And I remember I convinced my father to buy me a pair of yellow and purple Lakers Converse. This is this
90s?
this got to be. Yeah, from like 91, 92.
Yeah, 90s.
And I remember they were bright yellow and purple. And I brought them shits home. And my mother said, where you gonna wear those? You need to buy a pair of black or white sneakers. And I remember I was in love with this shoe. And I was like, nah. I didn't have nothing in yellow, nothing purple. It didn't matter. And my mom made me take them shits back. If you ever been in a Latino home, if your mother said that shit goes back, it's going back. She don't care who bought it. And I remember I was heartbroken, and I took them back, and I think I got me a pair of Lottos with the Velcro that you can change the colors.
Okay.
But that lit a fire later on in life, that when I was able to buy sneakers, I mean, before I had a son, I was a sneakerhead. Like I needed everything in every color. But that's the thing; those little seeds that you plant. You know, I didn't like living in the situation that I liked when I was little. So those are other seeds. So I wanted to do something different in my life. I wanted to live in a bigger house. I wanted to drive a better car. I wanted to give a better life for my son. So that funny little sneaker story, I always go back to it because it was me trying to get something I didn't have.
You probably wouldn't have been a sneakerhead if your parents
Never.
got you all the sneakers.
Never. Exactly. If they would have gave me all the sneakers, I probably never would have. But that, as a young kid in college and 20s, I had all the sneakers. But then I ended up seeing the value in that. And then that ended up starting a business for me. And so now that business now replicated, now that business pays back. So when I go out shopping, when I go out buying these shoes and stuff like that, I still get that rush, but I know it's not for me. I'm buying it for other people. And it's putting money in my account. So those things that we love, if you could turn those into streams of income as a mogul, as an entrepreneur,
That's what
that's what you need to do.
wanted to speak about, the resourcefulness of being from the Bronx, being Latino, and not thinking about what you don't have, but what you do have and how you can use that resource in
100%.
business. And why I love this motherfucker right here to the right, everything is business for him. It's
100%.
always business. So what I
It is.
wanted to ask you is like, from little, what were the things that you did that you see that now are coming to you? Like you were telling about selling bus passes and you know, just hustling, right?
Yeah.
And you see it now, it's like you basically hustling, but now on a more productive corporate level, but it's still the same hustle.
It is. It really is.
It's
I think
just a
it's
different
that
type of-
mentality.
Yeah.
I think the
But it's the
mentality
same.
is, everybody jokes around. You know, you said like you had lunch and you had one thing that I wanted and traded.
Trade, barter trade.
You know, I was always that kid. You know, I was always that kid that was always like, well, if you don't want that, I'll take it and I'll trade you. And I always found a way. You know, at the time I didn't have a lot of clothes and stuff like that, but like one of my boys would have a shirt and I'd be like, yo, you don't want that shirt no more? I'll take it. And I never had that pride because it might be your old shirt, but it was a new shirt to me.
Exactly.
So I think you have to be humble enough to say, you know what, you got to take them lumps, but you got to find value. And I think that was the point. I found value in things that people didn't find value in. I remember just little things in life. I was always looking at what can I do, or how can I flip that, or how can I, make it something of value. Because if, like you said, maybe they won't pay for it, but somebody else will. And I think for me, especially when I got into writing articles, that's really what pushed me, because I know my voice was what I had. Being from the South Bronx, having a multicultural background, growing up around different religions and colors and creeds. So when I wrote, there's people who, oh my God, that's so interesting. And it might not be interesting to us, but to them, they bought the article because they wanted that point of view. And so that's why I think a lot of us don't realize we have so much at our disposal. But because everybody knocks you down and, you ain't gonna do nothing. Because we love to knock each other down in our community. And I think that's one thing we really need to move forward as a group. You know, success happens in bunches, and I believe that. If you're around successful people, you're going to be successful because they're going to drive you.
Exactly.
You know, if you go to the gym, you want somebody who goes to the gym. You don't want somebody who wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, oh, I'm gonna do 5 minutes on the bike. Then your success is gonna be hindered by that.
No.
So we need to also learn how to cut those relationships off.
I think mostly for me was getting around these type of people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if there's 5 millionaires, you be 6. There's a saying like that.
100%.
And pretty much just understanding like who you surround yourself with is
Mhm.
very important because
Very much so.
it can dictate the next 5-10 years of your life.
Mm-hmm. I
know,
believe that.
You said that you have so much at your disposal, right?
Mhm.
And whatever you surround yourself with, and we have so much tequila. And
We about to taste some tequila.
Yeah, we're gonna taste some
We're gonna
tequila,
taste
and we're gonna get
So
some more
tell us,
questions.
Yeah.
a little bit, like how did this happen?
Yeah.
Oh,
Between
man.
everything
I'm
that you were
gonna
doing,
tell you what's so
you know.
funny. How did this happen? And I never thought
Because you was a promoter.
I was actually a promoter and I owned a bar. Remember I told you I had a failed bar business. I opened the bar. I came in as a partner at Lower East Side, a bar that wasn't doing well. And then I ended up getting bought out by my partners. And I thought it was horrible. I didn't know what I was gonna do, so I started writing articles. I traveled, I went to China. I just started writing articles about what I drank, what I saw, you know, the culture that I was a part of. I just started writing it, and people started buying my articles, travel magazines and liquor. And one of these magazines, they did a feature on me in Edible Bronx,
Okay.
which was amazing. I had gotten in the hands of the founder of the company, and I got an email, and he said, "Would you want to work on a brand? We're emerging, we're breaking market in New York. Would you like to be part of that?" I was like, "I don't know."
Now, when you got that email, did you think?
I thought it was a joke at first. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a joke
When
at first.
someone approaches me with anything,
Mhm.
like I'm a big numbers guy, so I think really big on like, all right, this is $1 billion industry. Did you think because this right here is $1 billion industry?
You know, I didn't even think that far, man.
You didn't even think that far?
I didn't even think that far because I think I was looking for a job. I was traveling on my own dime. It's funny because when I started writing, I was paying for my own tickets. Like, I did it backwards. If anybody would told me do it this way, you're gonna fail. I was literally going and writing articles. Like I paid for my whole trip to China without an article sold, hoping that I could sell that article when I got back. And I did sell it, and I only made like $500.
But you knew you was.
But I
gonna
sold it, right? Because I had enough faith that I went there. But the experience and the relationship that I made, and then look what ended up happening. So when he called me, I didn't know. I was on the fence, and I ended up meeting with them, and he flew from Mexico and came to New York. And I remember we had a meeting at Soho House in Meatpacking, which is like this members only, like high end. Remember, I'm still that kid from the South Bronx. I'll always be that kid from the South Bronx. And I remember going in and having breakfast with him. And it's funny because he had a meeting with 2 people. And he said, "I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. We can meet for lunch or we can meet for breakfast." And I said, "I want to meet you in the morning." He goes, "I'll meet you at 8 o'clock in the morning." And I was like, "Fuck." I was like, "Fuck, that's early." But it's that mentality. I wanted to be the first person he saw.
Exactly.
And let me tell you, we had that meeting. By the time the meeting was done, we hugged, and he said, "You got it." And he said, "I want to work with you, and I want you to represent the brand." And that was it. And so I left. I remember I walked from the Meatpacking District over the Williamsburg Bridge to Brooklyn. Like, I just walked. I was just walking, and I was happy.
So you live in Brooklyn now.
I do. I actually,
Okay.
I purchased something in Williamsburg. I like re-gentrification.
The-
I'm buying
the
it
bougie.
back. Yeah, I'm buying it
You
back.
buy
I'm not a
it back, it's the
gentrifier.
bougie of Brooklyn.
But you know, it was funny because I left that meeting so confident, and you know, even as you get older in life, a lot of things, those seeds that we had when we were kids, and telling us that you can't do something, and telling us, oh, you know, that's not for you. You know, it really hinders you because the guy told me I got it, and that everything was gonna be great, that somebody was gonna send me a contract. A week had gone by.
And you're like,
And I said, and I tell you, in that week, I went from, yo, I got this, it's a great opportunity, to, yo, I failed. I didn't make it.
Mindset.
You see what I'm saying?
Mindset.
And it's so funny because I defeated myself.
Fear mindset.
And and it was almost that idea of maybe I'm not good enough. And then I got the email and I got that packet.
okay.
And then I said, and you know what? I said, this is the last time I'm ever gonna do that to myself. Because you know what? I came there, they approached me. I didn't approach them. Like, value yourself. And I think a lot of times we don't value ourselves. You know, there's this thing called the imposter syndrome. Whenever anybody becomes successful, whenever you're in a room, you know, I've had dinner at Four Seasons and looked around and go, what am I doing here? And you feel like you don't belong here, but guess what?
You do belong.
You do belong there. And you've worked just as hard as anybody else, or even harder than anybody else in that room. And I think as a people and as an understanding, we need to get past that imposter syndrome and feeling like somebody's gonna find out I'm from the South Bronx. So I don't allow them, I don't give them the opportunity to find out I'm from South Bronx, because I tell them out the door, I'm from the South Bronx.
Let's toast
For
to
me,
that. Let's
for
toast
me,
to that.
We're gonna toast to that.
We're gonna toast to the Bronx and to the email. All
That's
right.
it, to the email, right?
Oh.
Very nice and smooth. Well, Hank don't drink, so he can say. You know, this.
We only got like 5 more bottles to go,
What
guys.
are we drinking right
What
now?
is
This is
It was
Blanco.
actually pretty smooth.
This is Blanco. It's 100% organic, kosher certified.
Okay.
It's just agave and water. And I
All right,
think
so what does that mean when you say 100% organic?
there's nothing added.
Nothing added.
There's nothing added to it. I think one of the reasons that the company resonated with me was they've been around for 21 years. They just did everything the right way. You know, in tequila and a lot of liquor industry, people cut corners and they add sugar instead of letting it mature in a barrel.
Okay.
They the color, they add color. They add, you know, we don't do that. We let it take its time. We let it mature. We let it, you know, we win a lot of awards because of that. You know, the taste, you can't fake the realness. And I think that's why it resonated with me, because it is the product, you know, regardless of, we don't need a fancy label. We don't need a bottle that looks like a hookah. We don't need that. We don't need to have a celebrity on a motorcycle. We don't do that. It's straight quality. And if you look, you know, we've been in Cigar Aficionado, one of the best pairing with cigars. Mm-hmm. We've been rated one of the top extraordinaire tequilas, one of the best reposado tequilas. You know, our tequila is rested for 364 days. You know, our reposado, and is phenomenal. It's probably the best in the market, hands down.
Like anything that I touch or put my money on is based on people.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I would never drink Casanova because I didn't know about them, but because I knew the man behind the person, the image. I'm like, Blue, if I'm in a bar or anything, let me have Casanova. Because I feel like I'm putting money where I value people.
I always make a reference, you know, the owner, the founder is still part of the company. You know, he still hand signs bottles. He still tastes. You know, so it's like going to a restaurant where the chef is the owner. Mm-hmm. He comes around and he shakes your hand. The food tastes better. Compare that meal to what you get at Applebee's. Not hating on Applebee's, but just a chain restaurant.
Applebee's just contact him.
Applebee's gonna hit me up like, yo.
We need to add.
But it tastes different. It tastes different when somebody is involved. You know, Carlos Santana is part of our company. You know, he didn't do it. He's not a drinker. He didn't put it on for prestige. He's not even a spokesperson. He's just an investor. He's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman that loves investing into Latino-owned businesses. So I think there's a current line. We have this thing called the noble pursuit, and it's not doing something because you have to. It's doing it because it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I think in my life, that theme has kind of carried me on. Mm-hmm. You know, where people wanted to cut corners, I was willing to do the extra work, and the opportunity came to me, not to them. And I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. I think if that's how you live your life.
I think that was a noble thing for me to do. I didn't want to
take
the shot, but I had to.
Have another one. But so, this is my favorite, man.
Okay, so
I
this
hate saying that. Yeah, man.
I want to ask you, how did you get into the whole like liquor business? You know what I'm saying, man? And I want to know what's the difference between a bartender and a mixologist, because
I know
you're not a bartender, you got a
free drink.
You know?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you. It actually.
How'd you get into it? What's the difference?
People have asked me, you know, that question, or you know, was it planned, or was it? I really feel like the industry chose me. It was never anything that I went searching for. I became a bartender because it was a side job. You remember I was like multiple streams of income? Mm-hmm. So I would work during the day, I'd bartender at night. I was a bouncer for a really long time, and I got hit in the face with a Corona bottle and almost lost my right eye. So I wore an eye patch, and I don't want to say as a joke, but the bar that I worked at put me behind the bar on a Tuesday night. They called it Pirate Tuesdays, but they wanted me to get money. They wanted me to collect money because I wasn't working. And I realized behind the bar, I was just talking to people and bullshitting with people. Like I like doing it.
In Spanish, it's called labia.
Yeah, just having a good time.
Lingo, you know, that talk.
And I did that, so then I started learning more, and I started getting knowledgeable, and I started working, and I started learning more about the craft, and so I started doing it. So I moved away from it, and life knocked me down. Life knocked me down to zero. So what I did was I went back to what I knew. So I started becoming a bartender again. Then I was a bar manager. Then I ran one of Sal's bars. I was a general manager, and I just started growing. And then this funny show named Bar Rescue found me. We did a show with them, and I was a consultant with them for like a year. And then through that, I met one of the world's best bartenders, a guy named Russell Davis, who said you should enter competitions. I'm from the Bronx. I've never heard about entering a bartender competition. And
you heard a drinking competition.
I heard a drinking. Look,
the Spanish.
I didn't know this was a real thing. So he's from LA, and he sends me. I'll never forget. He sends me a contract to join a Bacardi competition in Puerto Rico for Halloween in the in the Bermuda Triangle. They had this thing called the Bacardi Triangle competition, where people came from all over the world. He said, fly from New York. They had a plane leave from New York, LA, and London, private jets, and they were only taking, I think, 1980, whatever, whatever year Bacardi started. That's how many people they invited. Mm-hmm. So I flew, which is the stupidest thing. I left New York to go to LA to fly to Puerto Rico the next day, but I was on a private jet with Kendrick Lamar, by the way.
Okay.
Kendrick Lamar was on there, so I'm already bugging out. And the people on this plane, I remember I had went to China. I had met these guys that were big in the industry. They were on that plane with me, so they knew me already. And like I said, the way that life unfolds for you, the universe talks to you and knows where you're at. So in that competition, my first competition ever, I was rated number 3 in the world. And like nobody would have, if you would have told me I could have trained for this, I got a prep
number 3 in the world
by Bacardi. Yeah, that was my first competition. Then after that, I won. For Hennessy, best cognac cocktail in New York.
Is this on drinking or on knowledge?
On knowledge and recipe creation and service, and so it was. Remember we were telling you about writing. I had written, and my voice was different. So the people that I was competing against went to culinary school. They were, bartenders at the Four Seasons. My voice was different. My palate was different. So what I was serving the judges was something that they never tasted before, which gave me an advantage. So I made my disadvantage an advantage. Mm-hmm. So remember when I say it's in front of you, sometimes you don't know. Yep. Mommy cooking with tamarindo. I made a cocktail with tamarindo. And they were like, this is amazing. And I'm like, we're in Puerto Rico, bro. Like, how did you not think to make a rum and tamarindo? And I swear, I bought it off the side, a gallon of tamarindo, and I made a cocktail with it.
I love that, man, because some of the things that we feel are our downfalls because we're trying to compare it to others. We have so many gems, and it's funny how you say it. They're like, this is amazing. You're like, I drink this all the time.
Exactly.
Like, the first time me and Blue was actually in the same flight, same seat, whatever,
that was funny.
We actually drank all the liquor.
This is true.
In the airline. There was no
more liquor left after the flight was over.
We're not going to say how we got some more liquor, but there was no more liquor.
Let's just say coming from the hood, you find ways. But yes,
that's the first time that's ever happened.
That's the first time we drank the plane out.
I can think about we drank
the plane out of liquor. It was a good flight though.
Yeah, it was.
But it's things like that. So that's why I say sometimes the industry chose me. Like, me being in that competition, going to other competitions, then people calling me for consulting and learning like, oh, whoa, like I could flip this into another type of business and teaching people how to hire and make, recipes and cocktail menus. And, I've worked with, Mama Juana. I've built the bar Sangria in the Bronx. And I really wanted to focus back on businesses here in the Bronx. I've made cocktails for this location and any, I just wanted to give back because all these people weren't focusing here. And why can't we?
We're going to toast to that.
And yeah.
I'm here for the liquor.
Yeah, let it.
A toast to not being a priest, but being a mixologist.
There you go, right there. From being a priest to a mixologist, right?
Oh, my God. That was better than the first one.
Hey, that's 364 days, my friend.
Very smooth.
Telling you, this is...
I don't know the difference. Educate us and everybody.
By the way, this is not Hennessy.
No, this is not Hennessy.
This is not gasoline.
It's okay, guys.
Gasoline.
You can drink something besides cognac. It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So where we come from, I'm
sorry.
We come from, that's all we
I talk about that all the time, but I am a cognac, aficionado. I was the Hennessy king. Anybody who knows me before, there was a bottle of Hennessy stuck in his hand.
You have any pictures of you
with some Jordans? If you want to go through my timeline, there's probably a bottle of Hennessy somewhere in there. I was a Hennessy fiend, but you realize as you mature and as you think, like when I worked with tequila, I wasn't even really a tequila fan in the beginning, but then I ended up learning through aging and the barreling we use is French white oak. It's the same barrels used in cognac and in Mondavi wines and all these high-end wines. So a lot of those flavors are the same. So it's okay. Like I think people are learning now. You're seeing people drink more tequila. You're seeing people drink vodka.
Well, I think it's because as you get older, like now sometimes I'd rather have a single malt Macallan.
Of course.
It's just.
Well, it's also access. I never saw a bottle of Macallan.
I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah,
a high end.
That's what Mo was about.
Yeah, I didn't see a bottle. Like when you went to the liquor store in our hood with the plexiglass.
Yes.
They weren't selling Glenlivet and Tullamore Dew and all these like Macallans and
we would see that
Japanese
look at
whiskey
it because it wasn't an
well,
option.
no, it wasn't there. It was Hennessy and the other stuff that was probably neon green and too much sugar and whatever the hell was hot that day and on discount. 99 bananas.
But these are conversations that we have on trips.
We joke
about all this.
It's
Hypnotic.
hypnotic. How many versions of hypnotic did we have? And you realize that we are limited in our options. So, it's okay to step outside of that. Look outside. I think your life really reflects what you do. Mm-hmm. So as you grow as business people and as you grow in trajectory on your journey, enjoy the journey. There's nothing wrong with Hennessy. There's nothing wrong with these things. But don't be afraid to open that door to say, just as much as changing a drink or trying something different, trying a different type of food or French food or, whatever. Don't be afraid because you might find something that you like and it might open an opportunity for you down the line.
I love the part of like the resourcefulness where like what you went through growing up, you didn't even know it was gonna help in the competition.
100%.
Like those, like you said, 100%. They didn't have that palate. And then like
100%.
What you're doing in business now, the people that went to school for this, for culinary school, or even like marketing school, they don't know about the resourcefulness that you were selling, promoter tickets, and you're gonna use that in your brand. Like, nah, I know 100%. How to grind. I know how to make something out of nothing. And back to that, I just want you to tell the people that are watching like what they can do with what they have, because like. For example, look at what we have. Everybody talks about they don't want Mexicans, they don't want Latinos, but there's always a new chain of a Mexican restaurant, right? 100%. So there's something in the community.
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, there's value.
There's
value
all the time.
There's value in the community that they want to tap into that they don't want us to tap into.
100%. And I think you hit the nail right on the head when you say that. I think when people are around certain things, I laugh. Like when you go to a high-end restaurant. And they're like the most expensive meal on a plate is like oxtail, like right? You're like, what?
I posted that the other day. I was like, why is oxtail so expensive? And I don't even use the word expensive.
No, but like the things that we would eat, and I shit you not. I went to this restaurant and they had quail egg, runny quail egg on white rice. I was like, nigga, that's a whole huevo. And I was like, wait a second. You want me to pay $40-something for comida pobre? And you see that now. The stuff that was thrown away off the table, the stuff we grew up on, is now interesting to them because they didn't have that. It's not the filet mignons anymore. It's now these weird cuts of meat and these churrascos and like that was throwaway stuff for them. So I think. Value what you have. I know a lot of times we don't value our community, we don't our heritage, our food, our culture, our music. But if you look at the world in general, it's constantly taken, whether it be from hip hop, whether it be from Latin salsa music, style, fashion. We are the trendsetters.
Well, black and brown
people. I'm sorry to tell you,
we spend the most money in every single sector that you can think about, except investing.
Yeah, exactly. We are consumers. That's a big
exactly.
thing. We are conditioned consumers.
Exactly.
Which is another thing we need to look at. We need to start owning a lot more of those businesses and replicating that. And don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about doing well in life. Don't feel bad about being successful. And like, I've heard it. You sell out. Oh, you think you bougie now? No, I'm not bougie now. Look,
it's just the way of life.
I opened a business that now feeds 10 more families in my community. So if I'm bougie for supplying a stream of income for somebody that didn't have it, then call me bougie. Take the name calling because you know what? In the long run, if you're genuine and helping people and you're lifting your community, nobody can tell you nothing.
Tony Robbins
and this is why entrepreneurs.
Of course.
Get all the tax benefits.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because we create jobs that the government doesn't create for other people.
100%.
So you cannot hate on entrepreneurship.
No.
We don't hate on 9-to-5ers or whatever the case.
No,
'Cause I had a job.
I
I
think-
still would love a job that pays me every single week.
Look,
But I
think-
just don't want to be there from 9
I
to 5.
think most entrepreneurs, and this will be a little, I don't recommend people do what I did. I had a 9-to-5. I quit my 9-to-5 because I wanted to be hungry. I don't recommend that for everybody because my shit was feast or famine, and I needed that pressure in my life because I know how I am. If I knew a check was coming in, I was gonna sleep in a little bit more.
Me and you relate to that.
But
that
if
notion.
I knew, if I didn't get up and grind today, if you don't move your feet, then you don't eat. That was my mentality, and so that's what drove me in the beginning. I'm not saying that's for everybody. Keep that job and start your side hustle and start your entrepreneurship. Don't think that it has to happen overnight. I sold one pair of sneakers. Now I sell a lot of sneakers. That's just one thing. Invest in what you like and what you know.
But it comes into what you were saying. So like what he was talking about, you're feeding family. So Tony Robbins said that the secret to living is giving. So you're giving, so you're getting back that.
100%.
And then like when we're talking about the entrepreneurship, right? We talked about the ball.
Yeah.
The ball is just a ball, but the value that you put to it, what you
100%.
get. So if you're working a 9-to-5, they're putting a cap on your value, as opposed
I
to if
agree.
you're going out there with your bootstrap, you're putting out what you can get. So if you sell 10 items, you're gonna get
100%.
that. Now, what if you sell 100 items? Now you're gonna get more, but that's the entrepreneurship.
I
You gotta
agree.
be hungry. A lot of people they're so scared of failure, and you lost the whole business in Middletown.
Yeah.
And look at where you're at.
You know what I
You
think?
get
I
it?
think it's what we started this whole thing with. People are enamored with the goal. Everybody wants to stand on the podium with the gold medal. Nobody saw the workouts in the ring. Nobody saw the times where you didn't go out to party because you were too busy saving your money. Or the times you had to work extra hours and extra shifts to fund your dream. And I think that's not glamorous. And being successful isn't glamorous, even though you do get benefits later down the line. To get to that point, you have to put in the hours, you have to put in the sweat, you have to put in the sacrifice of not seeing your family as much, or the sacrifice. These are all things. This stuff has a price. And I think a lot of people say they want it, but are not willing to pay the price for it.
Can you talk about the focus that it takes? Because most of us always say this, losers focus on winners, winners focus on winning. And it's crazy that we say it like that,
It's
but it's
true.
the honest truth.
100%.
You have to be so focused and so curated to the point, like, this is what I'm doing. Like, you're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Most of your focus is here and
Yeah.
other things that you're doing.
100%.
But you know the end goal. You know where
Yeah.
you're going with this because it's already there. That vision, only you have that.
I think sometimes we have to take a moment and step back and look at the bigger picture. I think too many times we have problems or we have issues and we stack them up on top of each other, right? I got bills, I got rent, I got kids, I got this, I got that, I got the other problem, I got the other problem, and it looks like a mountain. If you step back sometimes and you go, you know what, I'm just gonna take this out right here, and I'm gonna take this out right here, you start dwindling this mountain. And I think so many people set that mountain so high for them. Oh, I can't start a business, I don't got no money. I don't know nobody, or I don't know this. Well, guess what? You take that one thing out and you start on that, it gets shorter. You take that other thing out, it gets shorter. And by the time you're done, there is no mountain, there's no obstacle. And I think that's what it is. Everybody wants immediate gratification. We live in that Instagram
Microwave,
society.
yeah.
We're
Exactly.
I'm gonna be an Instagram model, or I'm gonna be an influencer. Yeah, but a lot of those influencers went to school and they studied their craft and they got that network. And it's not just they turn on the camera. Some of them did, and I'm not gonna say that, some lucky people out there. But if you're gonna work for it, you're gonna have longer longevity. It's something that's not gonna go away overnight. Because if you get something overnight, you'll lose it overnight.
They said it takes
You're not maintaining it.
it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. You know what I'm saying? So they don't see the work put in. But
100%.
what advice would you give to anybody trying to be an entrepreneur, or like you said, people that feel that they have something in their community? Like, show them how, not easy, but what are easy steps to like kind of open up their own business if they feel they have
Yeah.
something of value.
I think really look at what you like. I think for me, I started making money doing the things that I enjoyed, and it didn't feel like work. I would spend an extra 2-3 hours doing something because I enjoyed it, or I enjoyed being behind the ball, or I enjoyed talking to people. Do something that you love. Don't give up quick. It's going to be hard. So that's one thing. My thing is always hard work, never quit. Like, it's not going to be easy, but know that there's going to be a benefit. If you genuinely work hard, there's going to be a return on your investment in yourself. Take care of yourself and move forward. Always move forward. Even if it's one step.
Exactly.
Even if it's one step.
It's still
move
one step
forward.
closer.
You know, and I see people do that all the time. Oh, I'm not as successful as so and so. I'm not doing as good as so and so. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. It's your life. They're not paying your bills. So I think we need to kind of focus in. You talk about putting blinders on.
Yeah.
You put those blinders on and you focus. By the time you're done and look back, you are so far ahead of everybody that you don't got to worry about it.
Now, my last question, I know Andy got a question, is I think big picture.
Yeah.
Like, I've known you now a little bit for a little while now, and I see everything that you're doing. Is there ever going to be like a blue tequila? You know, because we talk about ownership, and there's always an end game, right? There's always something that you think about. What's the next step for blue?
Is there a blue tequila? There probably won't be a blue tequila.
Okay, but
I will say
there is probably something
But there
else.
is other things that I've worked on. I think this year specifically for 2020, an initiative that I started with Blue York City is every month we're going to collaborate with a business.
Okay.
Different types of businesses. We have some really interesting businesses you guys will see where we're going to be releasing limited amounts of products or services in collaboration with Blue York City. So every month you'll start seeing Blue York City and XYZ collab this year.
Kind of like what the sneaker people do.
Yeah. That's actually where I got the idea.
What does it do? I don't know his name.
Off-white,
Okay.
yeah. So we're gonna do.
Y'all keep talking about off-white.
Like
another shot,
an off blue.
Off blue.
Yeah, no. Yes.
Blue X.
Something like that. I wanted to bring that idea and that type of community embracement and commerce together. And I want to focus on communities that do not get collaborations. So that is going to be my focus for this year. It's something I really want to focus on. I'll tell you, one of the companies we're working with is ADC, a different concept, which is a clothing line out of the Bronx. In a conversation with him, I found out he's afflicted with MS.
Oh, wow.
And I reached out to him because it was a good company, and I saw them grinding, and I saw the effort. And when I found out he had MS, he was talking about a Latino who was 30-something years old with MS, and he lives with it daily. And so what we're doing is our collaboration will go to benefit multiple sclerosis.
That's great. Real quick before we get into the shot, you were talking about how so many people, they put these limits on themselves. Like, you're talking about the mountain, right? But look at this guy that you collaborate with. He got multiple sclerosis.
That's
so,
right.
we just got to wake up and just don't quit. You know what I'm saying? So that's the crazy part about it.
I'm just preparing myself to take these home, by the way.
100%. And I think we are conditioned to feel bad for ourselves or wait for the hero. Somebody's gonna save me. So I'm gonna, marry rich, or somebody's gonna give me that job or give me that opportunity. Where we need to step up and make our opportunity for ourselves. There's people like him who have MS. There's people who have other afflictions. People who are handicapped. There is no excuse for drive and motivation. Drive and motivation comes from everywhere. I love Stevie Wonder. He's had I think I read it something where he's got a #1 hit in every decade for the past 50 years.
With no sight.
With no sight.
No sight.
And this is the same guy that they told him over and over it would be impossible for him to be something that he is. He had enough sight, and no pun intended, he had enough sight to believe in himself. And I think we need to stop waiting for someone to save us, and we need to start saving ourselves. And we need to start building those businesses and start building those infrastructures and financial sustainability and industry and investments and real estate. And I see that happening. I'm seeing my friends, the light bulb is going off. And we're now, even if it's not for me, it's opening opportunity for people like my son and your daughter and the people behind us where they're not limited to say, hey, you've now got a starting point that's here where we started here.
But I feel like, you see our generation, like we got into that level. Like this new generation, I feel like they don't have that guidance. And I feel like this podcast can actually,
I hope so.
change a couple of mindset in terms of giving them that blueprint to say, you know what? it's not all partying, it's not all Instagram, it's not just for
Right.
show.
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, you still gotta go home, lay yourself in bed and think about, do you have a foundation
Mhm.
where you can give to someone else like your child?
Yeah, of
Right?
course.
Because you're giving everything back to your kid that you didn't have,
Yeah, 100%.
that you wanted. And we always do that, like Latino parents,
Yeah.
trust me, we all do it. If I didn't have these sneakers, my daughter's gonna have every pair of sneakers.
100%.
If I was not able to get a Mercedes at 18,
Yeah.
my daughter's probably gonna have a Mercedes at 18 because we always want more out of life. And
True.
having that immigrant mentality, to me, it means so much because we grind harder, we grind different.
Listen, I love when people use that immigrant mentality. We're in a climate now, political, where it seems like it's a bad word. I just read a statistic. Mark Cuban had written that 83% of all new business and entrepreneurships is started by an immigrant or a child of immigrant.
Yeah.
So you can hear what they tell you. You know, you can waste your time and listen to the garbage that you're not good or you're an immigrant. But we are a cornerstone of who we are in the community. And I think we need to start believing that. You know, believe what you see, not what you hear. And I think that's what it is, progress, man.
So
And-
we're helping people, we're saving them,
100%.
hopefully with this podcast, but I'm not saving my liver, so let's take a shot to that.
Definitely, I appreciate you guys. And I
Appreciate
We
you.
appreciate this.
Yep.
This is to episode
Casanova.
4, man.
Real quick before we go, how you feel about Sobro?
Well, that was
Take that shot. What do you feel about Sobro?
I
You
don't know
right
about
here,
Sobro,
my
but-
haven.
I'm leaving.
Is Sobro a hair
Raheem?
product? Because I never heard of Sobro.
Okay, because you know they got Washington Heights now.
No,
Washington, Sobro.
Sobro is.
This is how I'm leaving.
Sobro's not a real thing, man. It's the South Bronx, and it'll always be the South Bronx. That's how I feel about
You
it.
heard it here first and forever. It'll always be the South Bronx Blue.
Always be
Love
the
you,
South Bronx.
Blue Wonder.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good, awesome,
That's
man.
a wrap.